Hey everybody, Warwolf2112 here, and I'm back for part 2 of my State of the Franchise. And part 2 is over probably the first action figure, well, it is the first action figure line ever, but it really didn't, I mean, it was good back then, but it really didn't gain its fame until the 1980s whenever they released the Real American Hero. And if you haven't figured it out yet, we are talking about G.I. Joe and Cobra! Yes, G.I. Joe. Now, I had the, or I was around, rather, back whenever they did the original figures, these little rinky dink toys, and to be honest, I really didn't care a whole lot for them. I liked the tanks and all the, vehicles and stuff, but it was a real hassle keeping track of all the weapons and everything else. They weren't He-Man, so they didn't have that fantasy aspect. They weren't cool robots like Transformers. So when I was a kid, GI Joe was the toy line that got left out, and I ignored it. I could not stand GI Joes. If it wasn't a superhero, if it didn't have big monsters and swords or transforming robots, I really didn't care. And GI Joe fell in that latter category of not caring. Now, as I got older, I mean, there were parts of the original toy line, the original A Real American Hero toy line, that is, that I did like. And when they came out with the new 25th anniversary uh, G.I. Joes, I couldn't resist. I had to pick some up. Now, I made a mistake. And as a result, this is the Snake Eyes I got, which you can't really tell. It's the comic book 2-pack Snake Eyes. He doesn't have the really cool visor. He doesn't have the black suit, and he's uh, doesn't come with timber. Um, so yeah, I messed up. I messed up because of all the if I would have had the 1985 Snake Eyes with timber, you'd have bet I'd have been sold on Transform or on GI Joe and would have bought them all. But since I never could find the Snake Eyes that looked like the my favorite one from the cartoon, I never really bothered with the toy line. Um, but this time around, they have really stepped up their game. The articulation on them, they've made use of their acquisition of Marvel Legends to get the double knees. Tons of swiveling joints. A little hard to bend sometimes, but swiveling elbows. They maintain all the articulation of the original toy line with pumped up detail and, uh, if you haven't noticed, uh, better proportioned bodies. Yeah, these things had like elephantitis of the head or something because they ended up huge. But these look really, really, really nice. Um, and the nice thing about these is that if you have any of the old GI Joe toys, with the exception of the fact that a lot of them have the little peg holes, or the vehicles, I'm sorry, with the exception of the fact that a lot of the vehicles have the little peg holes in them that get forced into the holes in their back. You can't really see that one. No, this is a newer one, but the holes in the back of the older ones would post right down onto the vehicle to hold them in. Uh, but with the exception of those specific vehicles, you can pretty much interchange these. They'll sit in all of them. All the vehicles that have been reissued or issued for the 25th anniversary line are just repaints or re-releases of the original vehicles, and it's made for really cool things. The fact that they re-released a His tank is awesome because that's like the Cobra signature tank. Um, I did say I didn't collect the toys, but I watched the TV show, uh, and I was ecstatic whenever I found out that these guys were getting treatment in the new 25th anniversary line. I love the Crimson Twins. I love the Crimson Guard. And I, of course, got a Fred Guard. It's Fred. Say hi, Fred. Hi, Fred. Um, the line is great. The detail on them is great. They have they have the tons of accessories they came with back whenever I was a kid. The dreadnoughts, you know, torch here, cutter, and buzzsaw here. They look great. They look just like updated and better proportioned versions of the original GI Joes. They've got all the same things. The great thing about GI Joes is they're gimmickless figures. They're not like Transformers have become now. Well, not so much Transformers, but like the Marvel toys and Batman toys that you see now. Everything's loaded with some stupid gimmick. There was no gimmick to GI Joes except for good guys and bad guys and tons of accessories, backpacks, and tons of vehicles that you could fit tons of figures in. And GI Joe is still doing really well. I mean, it's the first action figure line ever, and it'll probably be the last one. It'll probably go out. Roaches will probably be playing with this after the Holocaust. They'll be sitting here, or the apocalypse. They'll be sitting here playing with a whole bunch of GI Joes. Somehow Hasbro will still be releasing them. It's the toy line that won't die. No matter how many times I've wished it death. I mean, I got close, but then they come back and out with these newer toys that they carry on the tradition of the originals. They carry on a lot of similarities and likenesses to the original toys without being just a repaint. And they've added articulation, they've added detail, they've proportioned them better. They're at a reasonable price. They're the cheapest toys to pick up easily on the market. They're the only toy that is around that old $5 price range that toys were at back in the mid early 90s. During the 90s and the late 80s. That was allowance was $5 back in my day, and it's all we needed to get a good toy. Now you got to double the allowance. Whew, inflation. My kids got it good. But anyway, GI Joe are good as long as they want to keep pumping this line out and pumping out these high quality updates of the classic GI Joe figures. The line can exceed and keep going. I was just in a Walmart the other day. They had a case in. They had opened it, but they hadn't actually put it out of the new vehicle. I believe it's vehicle 2 packs. I saw the Serpentor Air Chariot, and oh, if I'd have been, well, if they didn't have all the workers over there and they weren't stocking, and I'd have gotten into that box and grabbed my Air Chariot now. But glad I didn't. There were Transformers to get. So, but GI Joe is still a good toy line. It probably doesn't surpass my urge for Marvel Legends or for Transformers, but picking up these new GI Joes is great. The fact that they've got a bat coming out, oh, that was the toy. I mean, I know I talked about the '85 Snake Eyes, but the bat, the original bat with the little hologram, lenticular hologram thing on his chest, that is the toy. That is like seriously. I can't wait. I cannot wait to hold that bat in my hands and place it on my shelf with all these other great GI Joes. But GI Joe is still going strong. I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. They still release the 12-inch line for the high-end collectors. I don't do a whole lot of military stuff. I like this because it's ninjas and robots and stuff like that. So it's all right. It's a good line. It can keep going, especially if the economy can't get any better. This is going to be about all the kids are going to be able to afford are these GI Joes and the Justice League Unlimited toys that are still being released. So anyway, that's my thoughts on GI Joe. It's a great franchise. If you like the old '80s stuff, you should definitely look into getting these. They're a much better representation of these characters, much more detail, and they're excellent. And you can get them 100% complete for less than an arm and a leg. So, anyway, this is Warwolf 2112 saying, "Be good to each other."